How's it going, everyone? Happy Wednesday. Today, we're going to be talking about the iPhone. See, the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, and 10 just got announced late last week, and it's made a lot of people really excited to upgrade to the new generation. But here's the thing, is that there's an entirely different group of people in the community that the market seems to ignore, and that's the people who like to hang back a generation, maybe grab themselves a deal on a device, or if they just don't like the new features that the new device offers, then they like to stick back as well, or they just don't care about having the newest thing. And they're the kind of people that I feel like can benefit from a video like this. Now, I haven't had a chance to actually play around with the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, or 10 just yet, so I can't speak from first-hand experience. What I have done, though, is I've done a lot of research on it, and I feel like I know enough about the device now that I feel like I can do an actual comparison. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, an iPhone is still going to feel like an iPhone, and you can more or less get the idea of what it is that iPhone is going to feel like from the specifications on paper. So with the release of the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus being just around the corner, is it worth it to just stick with an iPhone 7 for the time being? Like I mentioned, there's an entire group of people in the market that, especially when it comes to flagship devices like the Apple iPhone and the Samsung Galaxy series, that they like to hang back a generation to two. And it can be for any number of reasons. A lot of people do it for cost. Some people do it because they're just satisfied with the device that they have right now and they don't care about having to have the newest device. And some people wait just to make sure that all the bugs get worked out of the newer generation because, I mean, everyone knows that happens sometimes. Take a look at the Note 7, right? So even though I say that this video is for the people in that section of the market, it's actually a pretty good question to ask yourself. Is the iPhone 8 worth the extra price tag? Or should you save yourself a little bit of money and either go with an iPhone 7 or stick with your current one? If there were ever a generation of iPhone that I would say should be upgraded to, I would say it would be the iPhone 8. To me, it seems like the iPhone 8 just seems to be the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus perfected and how it should have been when it was released. And I guess you'll probably understand that as I start to explain a little bit more the primary differences between the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8. Overall, the design language of the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8 are about the same. They both share about the same body size, although the iPhone 8 is a little bit thicker and a little bit wider, and it's also a little bit less than half an ounce heavier than the iPhone 7. So it seems to be a little bit of a step backwards for Apple in that section, but there's really good reasoning behind that. See, what Apple did is they replaced the aluminum back that we've been so accustomed to from the iPhone 6 and iPhone 7 series with a glass back so that it can finally allow wireless charging, something that the Android community has been making fun of the Apple community for such a long time. The fact remains that, I mean, wireless charging has been a thing for a few years now, and Apple is just finally jumping on the bandwagon, which I think is great, even though they're a little bit late to the party. Obviously, having the glass back introduces a very similar issue to what a lot of the Galaxy users were having, which is that now the phone becomes a whole lot more fragile. And that's a topic for an entirely different video. But just be aware that the phone itself is going to be more prone to cracking. So, just a heads up. But the most important thing is that, yes, the iPhone 8 does finally have wireless charging. This is a feature that people have wanted for so long and so badly that they believed people on the internet when they said, hey, if you stick your iPhone 6 or 7 in the microwave, it will charge wirelessly. Spoiler alert, you guys, that didn't work. The iPhones either blew up, caught on fire. Either way, that person lost anywhere between about $700 to $900 worth of their own money due to just sheer stupidity. But don't worry, you guys, there's now a microwave-free version to wirelessly charge your iPhone called Qi charging, spelled QI. And it's something that Android users have been using for a long time, so welcome. But there's one feature that a lot of iPhone users still want that the iPhone doesn't have, and that's the headphone jack. And here's the problem with that, is that Apple is probably not going to bring back that headphone jack. I won't say that they won't. I'm sure that if public outcry is enough, they will, but historically speaking, when Apple has made a change, they've stuck by it and they've just made it work. So this might be something that iPhone users just need to get over. Sorry. Next up is the camera on the iPhone 8. And to most people, it's going to look to be about the same as the camera on the iPhone 7, at least on paper. The iPhone 8, like the iPhone 7, has a 12 megapixel rear camera with an aperture of f1.8, which is really good for those of you who don't speak camera. And the front camera is a 7 megapixel with an aperture of f2.2, which is still actually really good for a front-facing camera. Where the changes for the camera come are actually in the processor. In this case, it's Apple's A11 Bionic chip. And what this chip does is it provides better noise reduction, better low light autofocusing, as well as better pixel processing, which means that theoretically you should see much better pictures at night, as well as much clearer pictures overall. But that's something that I'm waiting to test out for myself. Samsung did something similar when they jumped from the S7 to the S8 because the hardware itself was still the same, but the post-processing that they did in the actual device itself did make that camera feel like it was something entirely new. So I'm excited to see what happens with this. For the iPhone 8, the camera isn't the only thing that seems to be the same, at least on paper. The battery itself, at least statistics-wise, seems to be almost identical. Just like the iPhone 7, the iPhone 8's battery has about 14 hours worth of talk time on there, 12 hours worth of internet usage, 13 hours worth of video playback, and 40 hours worth of audio playback. Where the battery does differ from the battery in the iPhone 7, it is more in terms of it being wireless charging capable now, as well as it being able to support fast charging. But that's something entirely different, and it's not as easy as Apple would like you to believe it is. Like I mentioned, there is a bit of a price difference between the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8. And I'm not talking about current price differences. I'm talking about price differences from when they were brand new. The iPhone 7, when it was brand new, came out and started at about $649, whereas the iPhone 8 now starts off at $699. So about a $50 price gap on that one. Which I guess makes sense because they moved from a 32 gigabyte base up to a 64. Oh, and if you were a fan of the 128 gigabyte versions of the iPhones, doesn't look like that's available anymore. The devices go straight from 64 up to 256. And for the iPhone 8, that 256 gigabyte model is starting off at about $849 on that one. So the iPhone 8 definitely seems to have a higher price tag, but I guess you can justify it for the changes that they've made. At the end of the day, the iPhone 8 is definitely a step up from the iPhone 7 in terms of both performance and price. But you need to ask yourself, are the changes that are taking place in the iPhone 8 versus the iPhone 7 worth that jump in the price tag? Is it enough to justify it? Something that only you can answer for yourself. The iPhone 7 is still one of the fastest phones on the market, and Apple's dedication to the efficiency of single-core processing is crazy, that now that they're moving into having more cores, I'm excited to see what they're going to do there as well. And this has been demonstrated through multiple generations of phones. I mean, the iPhone 7, like I said, it still has a dual-core processor, but for the past few years, we've had Android devices with processors that have 4 cores, 6 cores, 8 cores, and the iPhone 7, with its little 2-core processor, is still able to keep up and in a lot of cases actually surpass the performance of these devices with more than double the amount of cores, more than quadruple the amount of cores that the iPhone has. I mean, that's just completely absurd. So at the end of the day, the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus is still an amazing device, and it's definitely worth keeping, and it's definitely a device that should not be looked down upon just because it's being replaced with a newer one. Thanks for watching, everyone. That more or less does it for me for today. But I want you to let me know down in the comments. Are you going to be upgrading to the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, or maybe even the iPhone 10? Are you like me and you just want to have the newest gadget? Are you interested in some of the new features that are coming out, things like the wireless charging finally being available on iPhone? Or do you think that you're going to stick with the iPhone 7 or even the iPhone 6 for that matter? I'm interested. Please let me know. And also, don't forget to hit on that subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next one. Have a good one, you guys.